Hi everyone on Teach 261 summer session online. So here's my Think Aloud. I chose to do life cycle of a butterfly. For my Think Aloud lesson, I wanted to do something that I found exciting as a student, so this is the one I chose to do. And I chose to do it on Padlet. I'm comfortable with Padlet. I've used it in the past. That's probably why I chose it. But I kind of just like the whole look of it. It's really nice and clean cut and easy to access. So diving into my lesson, my topic is butterfly life cycle. And I wanted to start off my lesson with something that really gets the students thinking, but kind of gets them thinking about themselves as well so they can connect to the lesson. So my critical lesson you'll see throughout the lesson outline and kind of throughout as I talk about it. The question is, what are the similarities and differences between a butterfly's life cycle and a human's life cycle? So like I said before, I really want my students to start thinking about themselves and relate it to the butterfly's life cycle. So you'll see what we do with that in a little bit. But anyway, the connection to literacy, students are going to gain content-rich vocabulary, for example, pupil, chrysalis, butterfly, egg. So they're going to learn new terms along the way through this lesson. And they are also going to be introduced to some sequence words. So when I'm talking about sequence words, I mean like first, second, third. We talk about these when we're writing a paper. So first I did this, then I did this, then my character did this. So I think they will learn that in science you also have like time-related words. So like in the life cycle of a butterfly, it's first the egg, then the chrysalis, then this. So they're going to figure out that sequence words or time-related words helps them develop their life cycle. So the purpose of this lesson is for students to learn about the life cycle of a butterfly through the use of their science literature along with an online resource. And then I have an objective that I'd like to have my students accomplish by the end of the lesson, which is, after reading their science text along with their supplementary resource, students will, with accuracy, create a life cycle of their own to demonstrate their knowledge. So when I say kind of with accuracy, I'm kind of referring back to like the time-related words. I mean, when they have to label it, which will be in my lesson outline, that is accurate, labeling which one to each picture, but also like using those words to signify what is happening in the life cycle and making sure they really understand that first, second, third, fourth. Like it makes a difference in a life cycle. So for my lesson outline, I broke it up into 3 parts to make it more understanding for me as well as you guys. So when I model, I really want to start off the lesson reflecting back to my critical question, what are the similarities and differences between a butterfly's life cycle and a human's life cycle? Like I said earlier, I'm a really big believer that if you can relate anything to your students, they're going to remember it for when they need the information, or heck, they may even remember it 2 years or 4 years down the road. So I really want students to start connecting themselves to this lesson in order to capture the engagement. So this is where I'm really going to emphasize this question. I'm going to have students kind of pull their background knowledge to have them learn through experiences and maybe reflect back to or remember when they grew up and the stages they're in right now, or the stages they've completed, or the stages they have yet to go through. So we'll, as a class, we'll go through how much knowledge we can gain about the human life cycle. And after we achieve this, we're going to predict the butterfly's life cycle. So we're going to predict how the butterfly's life cycle would appear. After using multiple predictions on the board, I would pull up a picture of the blank life cycle, like, to give an example, something like this, but just pictures, no words. Like, this has the word bank. I would not include the word bank with this, just the pictures. So after looking at this, we'll see what predictions might look right. And after we predict by just looking at the pictures, I will have students read their text, a short passage, it's not anything too long, to look for the answers. First, I will read the first part of the passage to find the first label word. I kind of did air quotes, but you can't see me. So, when I mean label word, like I will model my strategy on how I found that word and how sometimes word sequence what comes next. So, for example, if I was reading something, um, and I noticed it said, well, first the butterfly hatches the egg. Well, I would really emphasize that first and then kind of, so this text is telling me it comes first. So that means something or another is coming in the event first. So I should probably make note of that. So I kind of will model similar to what I just did for you guys, how that works throughout the text. And then I will allow students or encourage them to try one on their own, and I will then go on to model each of the three strategies, just kind of how I just did, like verbally talking to my students about how my thought process works when I read the text and how I came up with my answers. So that leads us into guided practice. Because the students looked at the pictures and stuff, and we kind of worked together, and I modeled like which each cycle was. Students are going to group with their partner. I will give students a paper plate, 4 different types of noodles, markers, and glue. The types of noodles I will give each student is orzo, rotini, shells, and farfalle. You probably will be able to tell which one's which. The orzo is egg, rotini is caterpillar, shells is the chrysalis slash cocoon, whichever one you prefer, and the farfalle is the butterfly. So I will model to them how to get their paper plate started in terms of sectioning into 4s and titling their work. I wanted them to already know kind of how to draw with their marker on their paper plate, sectioning into 4s, so they can save time and really focus on making their life cycle paper plate. And then they will be able to use a resource over here. It's interactive as well, so it is engaging. If they need to use it, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to, but it is very interesting. Then they will write a few sentences on the back of their paper plate, how they personally see the similarities and differences between butterfly and human life cycles, like reflecting back to the critical question, like now we really know what a human life cycle is and what the butterfly life cycle is, so they're going to be able to give me like 2 or 3 sentences on how they're similar and different. Going on to independent work. So students are going to come back together and we're going to have a conversation about all our paper plates, and some partners will demonstrate what they did and some will explain why they did the way they did. And so sometimes students get embarrassed when there's a mistake, but mistakes make good teaching points. So if a student happens to have a mistake, we're going to go over it and kind of talk about why it's in the wrong place of the life cycle and expand further on that. So it kind of clears the air for everybody. So students are going to be given a worksheet during their independent work time, which is the one I showed you down below, but this one will include the terms at the bottom because students are going to complete this worksheet. They're going to fill in the worksheet to the best of their ability, and to make it more hands-on, they will cut and paste the answers on the sheet. So some people just have them write in the box. I kind of really want them to cut and paste into the sheet because it makes it more engaging, and they could even color in a few of the animals if there is extra time and other students are still working. But then I said, I would like students to write a few sentences in their journal. Oh, I lost it. Sorry, guys. I would like to have students get out their journals and write the sequence of a butterfly's life cycle using sequence words to really connect back to the literacy portion of the lesson. And my formative assessment, you guys already heard, it is the paper plate life cycle, and it's with a partner. So basically, I would just go around and ask each pair questions like, how did you know to put the chrysalis here? Why is this in this section? And stuff like that. I would basically be checking for understanding by asking questions. I mean, you could even ask the critical question during this to see if they really do know what the butterfly's life cycle is. And I think that my journal check would fall under formative assessment too, because I'm not really grading it hardcore. I'm just seeing how well they understand the sequence and time related words. So I said for my journal check, I will check students' journals to see if they understand what sequence words are for a literacy standpoint. So, like, do they know what if the egg comes first, they label it as first, this happens. So, kind of just having them use the words and getting a little more comfortable with using them in their text would be my pretty much main goal for this assessment. And then my summative assessment is it's like my formative assessment, but it's my worksheet instead, which I moved somehow. And I had the students fill this out, copy, cut and glue, and then hand in. They'll hand it in to me so that I can reevaluate if I need to teach the lesson in a different way or if my students are good and they know what to do and we can move on to the next life cycle to learn about. Um, I talk about my resources. So my gotta find it. Sorry guys, bear with me. So the interactive resource they can use is it's loading for you. It's about the life cycle, obviously, but it allows students to click and read new facts on the butterfly life cycle. So, for example, there's a lot more. It's more extensive than what we're going to learn, but they can talk about the adult butterfly. At first, the butterfly's wings are soft and flexible, but after about 2 hours, they dry out and become hard. Now the butterfly is ready for its first flight. It can set off to find a mate and, if it is a female, to lay eggs of its own. So it kind of goes into detail, like more into detail about the life cycle. But I thought students could use this during their guided practice to make sure that they're understanding and to make comparisons between their own life cycle and the life cycle on the resource. And then I thought like a fun game students could play maybe after guided practice if there was time, a life cycle game. Click to use. So this is kind of just like an interactive game. I don't know if you can hear it, but you just kind of drag the places where they're supposed to be, and it kind of makes cute noises when you get something right. So, I'm sorry if you hear my dog barking, but yeah, that's my Think Aloud, and that's how I would do it. I really hoped you liked listening. Thank you.